Hey everybody, welcome to Collector's Escape. My name is Paul, and how's everybody doing? I hope you are doing well. I hope you're having a great day, weeks and months. I hope you're having fun with your collecting, no matter what it is. And today we're going to talk about some more great science fiction writers. Specifically, we're going to look at A.E. Van Vogt. And this writer is another of our Pulp Fiction science fiction writers. I think it's very important to highlight and look at them because they have given so much to the field of science fiction, so much to writing in general. A.E. Van Vogt was born in 1912. He died in 2000. He was a Canadian-born author, and he didn't start really writing till about in his 20s. He did a lot of things. He was a farmhand, he was a truck driver, a laborer, and really got hooked on Pulp Fiction magazines. They were so prolific in there. In the 1930s would be the period of time he starts writing in the late 30s, but he was reading these stories and said, man, you know, these are cool. I want to write on this. And so, like many of the Pulp Fiction writers, he's writing for very little pay, as much as little as a penny a word, maybe less. Pulp Fiction writers didn't always get paid on time, and it was a hard way to make a living, a lot of work. And so, in 1938, he writes a Pulp Fiction series called Black Destroyer. And this story was about an alien on a ship far out in space that's terrorizing the passengers, killing them one by one, a destroying alien. Now, what does that remind you of? Is that something you might have heard of later? Well, certainly if you say Aliens, that came out in 1979, that would be a big bingo. As a matter of fact, it was A.E. Van Vogt had to sue 20th Century Fox for plagiarism and stealing his story, and he won a sizable amount of money in court over that. And so when I get to complain about George Lucas or others that sue all the time, and I think maybe he goes a little overboard, I certainly understand intellectual property and all the work you have to go. Having written 35 books of my own, that's work. And it's your baby, your creation, so you don't want people just picking it up and stealing it. Now, he wrote a lot of different stories. Slang here was his first novel, and it came out in 1946. And the story is based around a battle against a race of aliens, and they think that these aliens are almost exterminated, but that's not the case. And you go from there. And so that was a big leap for him. He wrote a lot of books, a lot of Pulp Fiction novellas that later came out in novellas. Here is Daw, one of the great Daw book covers. I love the Daw book covers. Pendulum. And let's see. I have two covers here. I have 200 Million A.D., which this is my favorite of the two versions. This is not a Daw book, I don't believe, but it looks like a Daw book cover. And then here's more of abstract art of the version of 200 Million A.D. The synopsis of this is really battles of super aliens and an extension of the story he wrote. The book originally was titled The Book of Ptath, P-T-A-T-H, Not a real fan of the abstract art. Certainly, they're late 60s. They would have a lot more of drawing a whole genre of art that was really as abstract, or like you really couldn't tell what you were looking at. And that was supposed to be expanding our consciousness, where we make us think about something. To me, it was a lot of that was just silliness. But that's just me. I like art that you actually can look at something and see what's going on, and not have to figure out, what is that? Is that a broken spoon coming out of a chicken egg? Those kind of things. The Changeling. It says, once they had been normal men, but when the aliens took possession of their bodies, they became immortal, able to read minds, predict, and change the future, possessors of weapons more powerful than Earth had ever seen before. Then their invading masters, with infinite care, made their immortal puppets hate ordinary men. But because they still looked and acted like everybody else, there was no way to tell who they were until they attacked. Interesting little line. This is another one I really like, and it makes sense. This is the Wizard of Linn. And the Wizard of Linn is sort of like the idea that if America becomes weak, that someone will invade us, someone will try to take over the country, and usually that's some other country or some other faction or terrorists or whatever. But in this story, it's aliens. So it says, the Earth, after the atomic holocaust, had reverted to a strange kind of barbarianism where men could build spaceships but could not communicate except by the most primitive means. Very interesting. And it says alien invaders had been sighted at the edge of the galaxy, but no one took action. And then here come the aliens to take over a planet that's pretty much devastated or diminished. Here's a dogbook cover called The Rogue Ship. And again, I continually talk about my love of the dogbook covers because they're exciting, they're fun. Everything dogbook was the dogbook covers on all these science fiction books, and there's so many of them. They're like almost wacky fun, swinging for the sky, cool, gripping, action-related covers. Now, Rogue Ship, and here they're advertising his slang book, which was his first book. He goes, centuries after the ultimate destination of the spaceship, The Hope of Man, which is one of his other stories, the journey had already taken 20 years, and still 9 more years remained before Centaurus could be reached. But the passengers were becoming restless. Mutiny was close. Captain Lesby possessed certain information not available to anyone on board. The Earth might very well have been obliterated by this time. So Centaurus was the only hope, and there could be no turning back at this point. This is the only beginning of a dramatic and fascinating interstellar voyage where the greatest hazards are not forces on an unknown scientific world, but man himself. If we pop over to Netflix today, I could show you several stories like this, but very, very common theme that's been over and over and over again used, and that is, I was just going to look at, this would be originally published in 1947, and then 1950, and then 1963. But this common deal of how do we, as humans, deal with long-term space travel, going long distances. Do we go into suspended animation or a hypersleep, which we saw in Aliens, but we saw that in many, many, many other movies, or do we have generations and generations of families being born, having kids, growing up and dying as you're traveling? Another thing that's seen a lot. And so A. Van Vogt, we've got a lot of his books we're going to share. We're going to collect them all. But tell your friends about the channel and subscribe yourself. And one of the biggest things we want, other than to share interesting facts and information and stories, is we want to collect new author titles to collect on. We had, I think it was 6 or 8 new subscribers here recently, and I love it. And we're getting some feedback. And here's a couple books that I picked up that we may or may not use and get all of their books, but they caught my attention. And this is Immortality by Robert Sheckley. Ran across this book. This is a Bantam book, and it was published in 1958. This is an old cover, but it's a really cool cover. And it's a cool little story. You can, in 2110 AD, just go to the Hereafter Insurance Corporation and hook yourself up to the machine. There's nothing to fear. That is, if it happens to be working right, and if nobody slips another mind in your body when you're not looking, and if you're not on a poltergeist hate list. Immortality Inc. is the tranquility, witty novel of the future where everyone has improved except the bumbling human race. I love it. I love it. So share with us. Down below we're going to have links to some of our stuff. If you help buy it, it keeps us going. It helps what we do with bringing this all together. But if you subscribe, share titles. Look at our video lists. See the videos that we've done. It's growing all the time, but there's so many books. Classic authors like this author, but contemporary authors as well. Tell us about them. Let us look into it, and we'll hook up those books. We'll share them with other people, and maybe in the process help grow your reading list as we build our 5,000 plus personal library here at Collector's Escape. My name is Paul. Have a great day. Keep collecting.